not just a football player, but he loves hunting and fishing and all of that sort of thing too. So, you know, we'll hear him this morning as he talks to us. Maybe someday we should have a hunting and fishing time and have him come back for that too. I don't know. But anyway, he loves that sort of thing. He's been a high school teacher. For those of you in education, he's spent a lot of time working with high school kids in different contexts as a teacher as well as in other settings. But also, most of all, perhaps, he's a passionate follower of Jesus Christ. This morning, we want to welcome Jude St. to come and talk to us. Join me.
Thanks. It's great to be here in Queens country. Interestingly, we did win a national championship of Western, and I can take some pride in a Western championship. Guys, it's great to be here. It's a pleasure to come down and spend a couple hours with you. Always enjoy eating, obviously, and be able to share a few things with you. You know, I've got some notes here. I'm not going to keep you too long, but I need to use the notes for two reasons. One, I've been hitting the head a lot, and I tend to forget things. And the other reason is I just like to prove that football players can read. So it's not just pictures on here, it's actual words. So quite the accomplishment for an old lineman, I guess. Anyways, I'm going to share with you a few things, tell you a few stories this morning. And I'm going to talk a little bit about football and a little bit about my faith as well. You know, it's interesting, I tell people I have three things in my life, and I'll begin with that. I have my faith and my family and football. And I said football's a distant third. All right, it's important to me, but it's a long way away from those other things. And I want to share two things in particular with you this morning. But interestingly, they're not necessarily things that you would expect to hear when you're going to a men's breakfast. And maybe not necessarily things you would expect to hear from an offensive lineman. Now, I know we're all men in here, but there's a chance that there's some guys in here who don't know much about football. Now, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands because it's just guys here, but listen, just so you know, I'm an offensive lineman, all right? So, in simplest terms, I'm one of the big guys that hits the other big guys, all right? I don't get to touch the ball, all right? I don't get to throw it, I don't get to catch it, I don't get to run with it. Matter of fact, if I'm touching it, something bad has happened. And there's a good chance that it was my fault. So that's not a good thing. You know, I actually have 2 receptions in my CFL career, and both of them were because I got beat by my guy, and he got to the quarterback, and the quarterback threw it at me to get rid of the ball, and I caught it. Both times I was tackled, I got hurt. So I got no interest in carrying that ball. Anyways, I want to talk to you about a couple of things this morning which I think make me successful, have made me successful in football. But I think they apply to life. And it doesn't matter what you do in life or what your occupation is, whether it's a hobby or whether it's relationships. I think these things are true and helpful no matter what it is. You see, interestingly, those of us who played a professional sport, we go to work just the same as anyone else goes to work. And I think sometimes in our society we like to think that it's something different, it's something special. I guess it is special because it's something we dreamed about. But when you go to work, we deal with the same thing that all you guys deal with. We deal with the politics, we deal with the dailiness and the grind of going to work every day, and it's true. And so I think a lot of things that we experience that you can relate to too. As a matter of fact, I told some guys, JD and I share something that, you know, both having to do with football that's not so great. We were both released by the Argos on the same day. So if neither of us play again, we hold that, you know, dark day together, JD.
Love you, buddy.
Anyways, JD and I have played together a couple times. We played together in Toronto, and he left and came back and played side by side. So it's good to have him here today. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about today, again, not necessarily a real manly word, but it's something that I believe is so important in life. It's certainly been important in my football career and the things I've done, and that's passion. All right? You normally talk about passion, you hear that word maybe Valentine's Day, right? You talk about it when you talk about relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. That's usually when the word passion comes up. And it certainly can be used in that context. But you know what? You could be passionate about robbing banks, right? You could be passionate about stealing cars. You could be passionate about doing all sorts of negative things. It's a word that doesn't necessarily have a positive connotation, all right? But I think it's important, and I think we can look at it. The definition for passion is an intense emotion and a strong feeling, all right? That's what passion is, and I think passion is so important in what we do in life and what we do, what I've done in football. You know, some synonyms for passion are fervor, enthusiasm, and zeal. And in life, in sports, in relationships, I think we need to do things with zeal, with passion, with fervor. We have to do them that way. Hegel, the philosopher, said this, and I think it is completely true. He said, nothing great in the world has ever been accomplished without passion. Nothing great in the world has ever been accomplished without passion. You know, if you think about it, whatever you're into, whether it's your work, your job, your hobby, a couple of triathletes at our table, whatever it is you do, think about it for a minute and think about the people who have done something great in that area. To a man, I'll argue that they were passionate about what they were doing. They were not indifferent about what they were doing. People who do great things are not indifferent about what they're doing. And people who do great things, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens because they care greatly and with strong emotion about what they're doing. Passion's big in football, and it goes a long way in determining success in football. It determines how you do as an individual, staying passionate about the game, but it also determines how you do as a team and how much you can accomplish as a team. I've got a quote here by Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi is arguably one of the greatest coaches ever in professional football. He was the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. He's also probably the most quotable coach. Some of the things he said were unbelievable. I want to share this quote, not necessarily for the content of what the quote says, but I want you to get a feel for the passion that this great coach had about football. And you can get a sense of the passion he had and perhaps some of the reasons why he was great. Lombardi said, "It is a reality of life that men are competitive, and the most competitive games draw the most competitive men. That's why they are there, to compete. To know the rules and objectives when they get in a game. The object is to win fairly and squarely by the rules, but to win. And in truth, I've never known a man worth his salt who in the long run, deep down in his heart, didn't appreciate the grind and the discipline. There is something in good men that really yearns for discipline and the harsh reality of head-to-head combat. I don't say these things because I believe in the brute nature of man, or that men must be brutalized to be combative. I believe in God and I believe in human decency. But I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, the greatest fulfillment of all that he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted on the field of battle, victorious." I mean, this guy loves football, right? He talks about things, the greatest fulfillment of all that he holds dear. I mean, sometimes I step back and I say, it's just football, right? It's a game. Hey, you know, let's take a ball and we'll make it oblong so it bounces funny, and then we'll put lines on a field, and then we'll assault each other. I mean, it's a crazy game, right? But this guy was passionate about what he's doing, and so part of me really tunes into what he's saying. And even though I think sometimes football is a trivial thing, when people do it, they should do it with passion.